middle.
Yeah.
So we like pre-show.
Yeah, we have to do that kind of silent, like,
Pre-show banter.
and then this is, 30 seconds here we go. Why, thank you for joining us. Like they're interrupting our conversation.
He did. He had like the look that like he was in the middle of something.
Never know why like everything.
He did. He's there. Are we ready?
I am ready.
Welcome everybody to live Q&A. This is Pastor of the Recovering Heretic. I am Pastor Dave.
And I am Recovering Heretic. One of these times we should leave it to the guests to say, welcome, Pastor.
No, we're all Recovering Heretics. Orthodoxy is a pain.
This is all that.
Welcome everybody. This is our show. So Dan, what's up for today?
Today,
The entire crucifixion.
well, basically, yes. It's Unpacking the Passion. And I doubt we'll get through the whole thing. But even to me, without the seminary studies you have, today's reading from Matthew of the Passion, well, there's a lot of disconnects with the other passions.
Yeah, they're all a little different.
For something that's that big and that major and that critical of crux of Christianity, it's amazing that they don't have a closer match with a lot of the details. But even within Matthew, just taking it one passion at a time, there are these hints of things between the lines.
Yeah.
Of stuff that just is like, something happened behind the scenes. And I'm just giving you a hint. And what Steve picked up on right away during it. So even though we're only starting, we've already got something. Oh, by the way, Steve said our equalization, we sound like Romans, which is actually kind of cool. Okay. So let's jump to the part, this is toward the end, where the priests determine that the money that Judas gives back is blood money, so they can't use it for the temple, they buy potter's field.
Right.
So Steve says buying the potter's field seems significant to the point that they explained it twice.
Yeah.
Two references to the potter's field. Is there something about this that is more important than what Matthew says in this question?
I don't know if it's more important. It's partially, the Gospels go at great lengths to establish historical reference points. And so that's a huge part of it, that they're not just making. The crucifixion is not mythological. Like they go to great lengths to, say, to establish as many local, historical, verifiable, points that they can. So you get things, you get really absurd little details sometimes, like the potter's field. Like that. Okay. It's as much about, see, there's this field, and you can go do it.
Yeah. But it's, it seems like it should be important because it's in such an important piece.
Yeah.
But it's almost like it was just like an aside. And by the way, it was 63 degrees and the wind was coming out of the south at 12 miles an hour.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, so what?
Yeah. There's kind of a little theological thing, that the blood money for Jesus is used to sanctify, is used for burial places for foreigners, right?
So that's what a potter's
field. Well, it says it in there, right? It was a burial site for they used it as a burial plot for foreigners, and so it gets back to even in Jesus' death and his betrayal, he's sanctifying the outsider, like even in this dark moment, this is God can't help but, just the quantum energy radiating off Jesus just does this thing that sanctifies Jesus. It sanctifies outsiders, foreigners and outsiders.
So it's still more of a big hint of people. This is for everybody.
Yeah, it's for everybody, and this is true values. Like even in this moment, this is what's happening.
Yeah. There's sticking on the cemetery. Well, first, you could come back on that. So why is it called potter's field? Because Like, it made it sound like it's like people who make pottery.
I have no idea. It's as much as anything, it's probably got to do with Matthew trying. I don't even know if it actually was at that point called Potter's Field. It's probably got as much as Matthew trying to quote Jeremiah and trying to make them nice season parallel. Because Matthew's got this thing where he's kind of funny about it. Like he'd make a great like end editor. Like the copy editors. Yeah, I have a friend who does copy editing. His job is literally to check footnotes and indexes. That's his job. That's all he does every day is proofread indexes and footnotes. He's really good at it. And this is who Matthew is. And so Jesus breathed, and this was to fulfill the prophecy as cited in Isaiah, by the prophet. And that's how Matthew is. Just everything's got its Old Testament citation.
So why? What was Matthew's? What was he writing?
He's probably writing to a primarily Jewish Christian church. So he's concerned with Jesus as the new Moses and as the promised Messianic king, Jewish religion.
So it is he would have to, in his mind, verify, justify.
So he's like, see all these Old Testament things you've been reading your whole life, they're all about Jesus. It's kind of like, see.
It's all foreshadowing.
Yeah, it's all foreshadowing about Jesus, and so that's very interesting. They all do it, every author says this was to fulfill the prophet. Matthew does it like every other.
Yeah.
So like even the Potter's Field is about something Jeremiah said,
Well, again, back to the Potter's Field, the cemetery stuff. This is something that until I did the reading, John at the bar, for some reason it never hit me before. But there's like this, again, foreshadowing. There's a preview of the great resurrection to come. After Jesus goes back,
people come out of the grave.
Yeah, I felt like I'm reading the premise to Michael Jackson's Thriller video.
Yeah, it's a little right.
Yeah, that, the moment Jesus dies on the cross, a bunch of people, like zombies, come out of their graves. And then when Jesus is resurrected, Matthew says, more people come out of their graves, and they actually go drifting into the city of Jerusalem and are chatting with their friends and family. Why is that not emphasized? Like, why 6 decades into this is the first time I noticed that between Lazarus and Jesus' resurrection, there's this mini resurrection.
Well, first because it's a weird little detail, so
It is a weird detail.
You're not really sure what, I wouldn't know how to preach a sermon on it because, I'm not sure what to do with it,
Yeah.
So yeah, personally, it's just a weird little detail, which is the problem. And the other part is we're not there we're so busy getting to Jesus' death and resurrection that you can kind of skip over. You got to run over some of these details.
Yeah, but what a thing to run over. It's like, we talked before that, Lazarus being the first one.
Yeah.
But now we've got the whole freaking
Got a little outbreak.
Walking Dead.
You got a Walking Dead outbreak.
Yeah. And it's just like, oh yeah, Uncle Bart's back to life again.
Right.
No big deal. We're not
That's always the part that makes me laugh about that. Because Matthew's very good. I go back and I chat.
Yeah.
That would be the funniest part to me. Like, hey, I was dead. And also that would be very. I think about this with Lazarus too. You're up in heaven, blessed and rested of the Lord Almighty, and suddenly you're
going back.
Right, like it must be very rude awakening,
in a very literal sense.
Yeah. So I find it the whole thing's good.
Yeah. Even all the televangelists, I never see them focus on that.
I know. Part of it is that Christ's death really is this moment where I programmed something. I built my own PC, right? I built something slightly ever so wrong. I'm not sure even what it is, but there's something ever so wrong because once in a while the whole system will just go berserk. It'll go and then my have to turn off, right? You know, and I know that's something to do with the way I constructed it. Like I put a wire wrong somewhere, so the right series of events happen and it trips something, whatever. That's fine. The computer works what I need it to do. But that's kind of what Christ's death is, right? It's this like the whole system goes haywire, you know, at the moment of his death. So
hence the shroud
so, right. So and berserk in good and bad ways, right? So like the resurrection is good, like the people rising out of the graves are good.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the shroud being torn in two is good too. Actually, it's meant to be good news because that's the curtain to the Holy of Holies, and it's meant to symbolize that there doesn't need to be that separation anymore. At Christ's death, that separation between the Holy of Holies, where God literally is, and people, is no longer needed. You know,
we have a direct contact.
Yeah, you know, he's directly among his people because he is present in their deaths.
Yeah.
You know, and so the shroud gets thrown into. There's earthquakes. There's darkness. You know, again, it's kind of like the whole system is going berserk for a minute.
Yeah.
You know, like all the underpinnings of creation just died. You know, and so the whole system goes haywire. So people rise from the dead.
So it's like the cat resetting the matrix.
Yeah, a lot of it. Yeah, similar. Yes, that's a good analogy, actually. Right, the cat is resetting. So yes.
But now I'm left to wonder, and you've mentioned this before, even theologically, there's a debate like when Lazarus was resurrected, did he become immortal?
Yeah,
because
did all those people right?
So now, because we actually have
great
a horde of immortals living amongst us.
Only be one man. Yeah. Who knows?
Now we know the origin of the island.
Now we know the origin of the island.
They never really explained it.
Right. Now we know. Isn't it great?
See, this is part of why I'm doing this. So many unanswered questions come to light.
Yeah. Including where did the Highlanders
catch up on a lot of comments coming in. Renee says that she thinks it's very powerful when the congregation is reading passages of the Passion that illustrate the various betrayals of Christ.
Yeah, that was me.
Okay, I just want to know, is that something that's been done since you were during times of the Bible?
No, that's not me.
That's something that's been done since the early days of Passion Day.
Yeah. I try very hard because it's really important we get this that there are only two people responsible for Christ's death in terms of orthodoxy, and that's Pilate and us. You know, like those are the two, because the creed's named Pilate is the only person connected with Christ's death. He was crucified under Pontius Pilate. So Pilate's one, and then us, you know, you and me. And so, and this is opposed to the very unfortunate history of anti-Semitism that's in the church, where we would say the Jews killed Christ, including that Matthew passage that we read, which I have a crowd read, but his blood be on us and our people.
Yeah, and future generations.
Yeah, future generations.
Like a curse.
Right. And so I wanted people to read that. So my goal is always, in whatever way we do it, is to make sure the people shall crucify him at least. Do all the betrayal parts, because I want to make sure
they understand.
You understand. It's us, it's me, it's you, you know.
Don't make a scapegoat.
Don't make a scapegoat of Jews, don't make a, you know, it's you and me that's responsible for Christ's death.
Yeah.
You know.
And
it's not the Jews, and it's not, you know, others, it's you and me.
Yeah, I think that's really important because it's, when you look at how people are behaving, it's very clear that if Jesus did come back today, we crucify him all over again.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't fit our values, especially as Americans.
Right, well, and we crucify, right, and yes, we would, and so, yeah, yeah, so that's the goal. So that's me, it's not some ancient tradition, it's me. Based on sound theology, but yeah.
Well, I mean, speaking of that, this Matthew makes Pilate look like an okay guy. Matthew makes Pilate look like he's just a bureaucrat doing his job, and you know, he makes a point of saying to Pilate, if I don't do this, I'm going to have a riot on my hands and a bunch of people are going to die. And so to Pilate, the way Matthew paints it, Pilate doesn't really have a choice. He's going to be a good governor. He has got to do what this crowd wants because they're about to just open rebellion. And even his phrasing, Pilate's phrasing, it's like he's trying to give Jesus 8 million chances. Please, come on, I don't want to do this. Give me something to latch onto so I don't have to crucify him. So how do we go from that to totally blaming him for the creed?
Well, I think this is a problem with our American sense in that we identify with the imperial people. You know, like this is us.
We are the empire.
We are the empire, and so we kind of identify with the empire, and so we read. I do not think Pilate's nearly as sympathetic as actually we read him as. I think that's an American problem. So you can hear him that way, and I think a lot of Americans do hear him that way. But there's another way to hear him, which is using the exact same words, which is he just doesn't give a you know,
the nuisance in my day.
Yeah, there's a nuisance in my day. Like executing you will be paperwork. You know, I don't want to do getting back to the bureaucrat. He's an evil bureaucrat. You know, like he's in the D&D scheme. He's lawful evil, right?
Yeah.
Like you know, and so like I don't care whether you live or die. I'm willing to. I have no problem executing you. He even says it, right? Oh, fine, you want him to die. I know, I think he's innocent. I don't care. You know, I wash my hands of it. Fuck you people. Kill them for all I care. You know, you know, you should hear his lines to the crowd as mocking, not as mocking their messianic pretensions. You know, not as trying to find a way out for Jesus, but.
So he's functionally facetious through this whole thing.
Yeah, it's like, who do you want me to? And bandit is code word for revolutionary, right? Bandits were zealots. They were, you know, they were members of the Jewish underground. You know, so he's mocking them, he's saying, "What do you want me to give? Do you want me to give you the freedom fighter, or do you want me to give you your king? You know." I'll execute one of them. I don't give a damn. You know,
one of them has to go.
One of them's going. Yeah. You know, which one do you want to die? You know.
And Matthew's telling that makes sense that Jesus was crucified with 2 other people.
Yeah.
Because originally it was going to be Barabbas with the 2 other men. So they were probably all part of the same.
They were probably all part of the same. The same cell.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
And then suddenly Jesus is thrown in there. So why do some of the others? Why do we have this thing that they were thieves? Instead of
you should hear it, the word is the same, you know, so you should hear it as thief / bandit. You know, they were all one category of people, you know, and so, and most, right, so.
But originally it was going to be
2 rebels. It was going to be, the rebel cell leader was being executed. And so here's Pilate, right? He's even been, in Roman society, dreams are really important, right? Like Julius Caesar is born in a dream. Murder.
Yeah, where the eyes are marked.
Yeah, you know, like dreams from your life are an important motif. So he's been given all the signs, you know, that he shouldn't crucify this guy, and yet he doesn't. He's too apathetic to care. He does not care.
Yeah.
Because Jewish blood is that cheap to him, which is true about Pilate in history too.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I read that. Pilate was like the #1 crucifier.
Right. He got recalled to Rome for being too cruel. Which do you know how hard it is as a Roman governor to get recalled for being too cruel? You know, like you know that it takes a lot for a Roman administrator, especially since they only have 1-year terms. You know, like
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they only have 1-year terms. So you know, he's not there all that long. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it was especially.
Yeah.
Well, what about his wife? You know, her having that dream. Not
Yeah.
just as apathy, given Rome, why would he ignore it that readily? But B, I've also read that people have taken that to mean that it might be a between the lines hint that Tyler's wife was actually to follow.
Yeah, there's a lot of legend around that, and I have no idea. it's just this detail Matthew gives. Again, all creations go to berserk at this moment, right? So like, it's manifesting itself. Those who are sensitive to the code changes are getting dreams, and things are changing around them. The very fabric of creation is being altered. Like it's, again, the matrix thing is helpful. So those who are sensitive to changes in the matrix are picking it up, and that kind of stuff.
That's interesting. So it's like today, there's some people who are very, very deeply spiritual.
Yeah.
Who will say that you can be sensitive
Right.
to what God is doing, what He's saying.
Right.
The understanding the cosmos.
It's kind of like, sorry, Kate, my wife gets migraines when it's cloudy outside.
Yeah.
It's like, people are getting migraines. Like the underpinning fabric of creation is, like being altered. So people are getting weird.
Yeah. So you can be tied. Well, Steve, and I'm glad Steve's bringing this up. Unbelievably, we're almost out of time already.
Yeah.
This has gone so fast. So many questions about passion. But Steve asked, is it just me, or was Judas stupid? He took the silver to betray Jesus, then realized he sold out his friend for blood money. That even the priest didn't want.
Yeah.
So I'm going to add on to that question. Was Judas just stupid? Or to me, a lot of times when I read the Passion, no matter whose version it is, I get this undercurrent of he and Jesus knew all along that this was, in this one, Jesus is more blaming.
Yeah.
But in others, there's almost like when Jesus gives the lines, he's doing a wink, wink at Judas. Like, we planned this, the two of us, so that we can fulfill the promise.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it was planned. I would say just, they both do know. Judas knows what he did. Jesus from the moment he calls Judas knows who Judas is.
In the big scheme. So from the very beginning.
From the very beginning, he knows, and so I wouldn't say it's like the kind of gospel of Judas. Oh, Judas was innocent, and it was it's not that, but there is we both know what's happening here. There is that. It's not a surprise. Jesus isn't surprised that he's betrayed.
Yeah.
He's been warning about it for
at least weeks.
Yeah, for weeks, right? If not the whole ministry, right?
Yeah.
There's 3 passion predictions. He says each time the Son of Man must be betrayed, and so he knows what the plan. He knows how it's going to go.
Yeah.
So that does add I don't want to paint it as Judas is innocent, but it does add it adds a complicating morality to it, or maybe not morality, but it has a complicated character dynamic. I know what you're doing, you know what I'm doing, we're going to do it anyway, and
And there's a big element of that here. And right down, to Jesus, and we're going to have to delve into this stuff later because it gets into the whole. There's a lot of Matthew in this passion that seems to contradict the concept of trial. In that, Jesus is very upset, very angry, does not want to go through this. The way he talks to the Father is as a distinct individual, not as a partner.
The creed always says the Athanasian creed is the go-to for all things Trinitarian. It says they are distinct, but not individuals. And so I don't know how that works, but
They are obviously recognized.
But it's not. Don't make it into. There's a heresy called modalism with the Trinity, and modalism is that Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are just modes of God's being. Like when he's with us, he's in the Son mode. When he's doing creation, he's in Father mode.
Yeah.
When we're in a particularly lively worship service, he's in Spirit mode. But they're just modes, being, and then that's a heresy. It's actually one of the primary Trinitarian heresies. because it collapses the distinctions of persons. They're no longer distinct persons. They're, you know.
Well, we all know when it comes to persons, play skee ball in church course.
Right. Yeah. It's great. Skee ball. Yeah, and so don't distinct persons, one essence. You know, as a like they all share an essence.
Yeah.
But there's a distinction. You know. Don't divide the persons either. That's the other part of the Greek says.
Yeah.
Don't make them so distinct that they're divided, because they're not. They share one essence.
Yeah.
But there is a distinction.
One final thing, and then because you mentioned it, the whole thing about Judas's potential innocence. How deeply should we put any kind of blame on Judas, given that he was such a necessary linchpin?
Yeah.
We would not have Christianity today if it wasn't for that. He is vital, he is crucial. In Dr. Who terms, he's the fixed point in time. What he does is so important, it cannot be changed.
Right.
So if it wasn't Judas, it had to be somebody.
Yeah.
So if that role had to be fulfilled, how much can we really justify pointing a finger at Judas per se?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would only point finger at Judas if only to point finger at yourself. You know, but getting back to the Creed line, two people, right? Judas isn't actually mentioned in the Apostles' of the Nicene Creed. You know, right? Like he was crucified under Pontius Pilate. You know, for us and for our salvation, he can go. Those are the two. Those are the two lines of the creed. You know.
So ultimately, it is us.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, again, this is why I had to read Judas's lines, right? Is because if you're going to place yourself anywhere, place yourself either in the crowd shouting "Crucify him," or with Peter out in the courtyard denying him, or with Judas taking the blood money. You know, but as rough as that is to say, like that's where we belong. We want to place ourselves right next to him at trial, you know. But to quote Chuck Peterson, Cheryl Peterson's husband, nobody walks away from the crucifixion looking good. You know? So, like, none of us do, you know. And that's the hard, you know, that's the hard part of the message. The beautiful part of the message is Easter Sunday comes anyway, you know. So, and whatever that means for Judas, I have no idea. You know, that God will have to sort that out in his eternal providence.
I noticed that on Easter after Jesus, deceased Uncle Bart come back for Christmas or Easter dinner.
Yeah, right.
That's still wrong. That's all the time we've got for today. So much more to unpack with the Passion, but there'll be more Easters. Yeah, there will be more Easters. So we'll do that. So we're off next week.
Yeah.
And then I think the week after that, I've got an actual spiritual retreat. So maybe in 2 weeks
We'll be back.
Lots of times, right time to question.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.
See you, folks.